All right, everyone, welcome to our video here. Our objective today is that students will be able to convert a graph to an equation. Previously, we've worked on if I give you an equation, can you graph it? Today, we're going to do that in reverse. I'm going to give you the graph, and I want you to make the equation. So let's look at example one. So I can see here I have my graph. It's a straight line. Anytime I have a straight line, I'm using y equals mx plus b. So I know, let's go over these parts. I know I need to find the m, which is the slope, and the b, which is the y-intercept, right? So if we can find the m and the b, we can make our equation. The b is pretty easy to find. The b is the y-intercept. So to find the b, the y-intercept, I go to the y-axis, the axis that goes up and down, and I look for where I intersect it. I can see I intersect right here. That's at a +4. So I know for the b, I can replace that with a positive or a +4. Okay. Now let's go to finding the slope. That's the only other part we need because the y and the x will stay in the equation. So to find the slope, quick review, the slope, or m, is equal to rise over run. So to find the slope, first thing we need to do is find a point on this graph where we hit nice and evenly. Like this point would not be a good point because it doesn't hit right on the corner of the grid. This would not be a good point because it doesn't hit on the corner of a grid. I'm not really sure where I'm at on the x, but like this would be a good point because it hits right on the corner. So I'm going to choose this point. And so now I'm going to calculate, how do I get from this point to this point? So let's see. I go up 1, 2. That's my rise, 2. And I go over 1. So my run is 1. So my slope is 2 over 1. So I could write that here for the m. My slope here is 2 over 1. I fill in the x and y. And the graph that matches this equation is y equals 2x, 2 over 1x plus 4. Of course, you could, instead of writing 2 over 1, you could have written just 2, right? Because 2 divided by 1 is 2. So it could have also been y equals 2x plus 4. This would also be a correct answer with a simplified fraction. All right, maybe you didn't get it all the way the first time, but I do want you to go ahead and try the you-do on your own. The way this works, when we get to a you-do, you pause the video, then you try it on your own, and then you unpause to check the answer. So go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, hopefully you're unpausing because you solved the you-do. I don't want to see anyone just copying down the you-do. You won't learn that way. So let's go over it. I'll go over the you-dos a little quicker since it is a review. All right, so we know we have our linear equation, y equals mx plus b. This is a linear function because it's a straight line. First thing, I need to find, where do I intersect the y-axis? Here I can see that's at -5, right? If I go to the y-axis, that's at -5. So I know that the b is going to be a -5. All right, the y-intercept. Now I need to calculate the slope, which I know is rise over run. So I'm going to first see, all right, how do I get from this time it gave me the points, which is pretty helpful. You don't have to look for like a nice even, hitting the grid. But, I could also put a point here. So let's pretend I'm going to use these points. It doesn't matter which points I use. The slope is always the same on a linear function. So let's say, all right, let's figure out the rise. How do I get from one point to the other? 1, 2, 3. I rise 3. And I go over 1. And so my slope is 3 over 1. If I want to simplify that to 3, I can, right? Because 3 divided by 1 is 3. But sometimes I like to keep my slope as a fraction because it's helpful if I want to graph. So the answer here is y equals 3 over 1x minus 5. This equation and this graph are the exact same thing. They're just shown differently. Just similar, just like water can turn into air or ice. It's just changing forms. That is kind of what's happening here. All right. Hopefully you got that right and you're feeling good. Let's move on to the last example, example 2. All right, let me move my picture a little bit. It's in the way. There we go. Get this guy out of the way. All right. All right, here's my graph. And I know it's a straight line again, so I can write y equals mx plus b for a linear function. So my first step, calculate where do I intersect the y-axis. The y-axis goes up and down. It's the vertical axis. Go here. I'm in between 2 and 4. What number is in between 2 and 4? Well, that's 3, and that's a positive 3. So I know that my y-axis here, or my y-intercept, sorry, is positive 3. So I can write plus 3 under the b. My next step is to find my slope. So I'm going to have 2 points here. But I'll notice that this line is sloping downwards, right? We always move from left to right when we're counting this. And so I can't go, oh, I go up 1, 2. It's not going to work, right? Like, then I go backwards 1. So we could do that. Backwards 1 could also be a negative, and it would work. But I'm always going to go from left to right. So to get from this dot to this dot, from this point to this point, I need to calculate my rise over run. Looks like I go down 1, 2. Down 2, hopefully you remember this, to show going down in math. Well, that's not a rise, that's going down. So we use a negative to show that we're going down. And then I go over 1. So my slope here is negative 2 over 1. I could simplify that to negative 2 if I'd like, because negative 2 divided by 1 is negative. Fractions are just division. Fractions are just division. So I can write this equation as y equals negative 2x plus 3. All right. Okay. Let's clear this out. We're to our final you-do. I'd like you to try this problem on your own first. So go ahead and pause now and solve the problem on your own. All right. Hopefully you're unpausing and you're ready to check your answer with me. This is a straight line, so we know we're graphing it as y equals mx plus b. And we have to start by finding our y-intercept. So I'm going to go to my y-axis. Looks like I'm at positive 3. So I can write a positive 3 right underneath here. And then I'm going to go down. Then I'm going to calculate my slope. Sorry, my slope is equal to rise over run. And so how do I got to find another nice even point here. I see one right here, right? It really hits the corner so that I know it's a nice even point. And so from left to right, I can already tell, oh, there's another point here I could use. This might be easier. So let's try it. I'm going to go down 1, 2. Down 2 is a negative 2. And over 1. So negative 2 over 1. I could write that as negative 2. So my slope here could be y equals negative 2x plus 3. That's the equation that matches this line. Hopefully you're not just understanding the process here, you're kind of understanding what's happening. And I think it'll all start to click once we put all the forms together. Table, equation, graph, table, equation, graph, and story. All right. Thanks for watching the video. Go ahead and try a couple of the practice questions, and you know how to find me if you need help.